Hi guys, welcome back to the studio. So we're going to do some more stuff today. I always crack myself up because I love doing cartoons. So today we're going to talk about different, just some different animals, different characters and stuff like that. We're going to do some very simple drawings. You know how I use that word a lot. I think that when we're initially working on drawing cartoons, um, keeping it simple is a good idea, especially if we're planning out a cartoon. For example, if I'm going to do some sketches and decide, how I want this thing to look and how I want our characters to play out, I may do several sketches first. But in this particular case, we're just talking about how we can get some animals to look like animals, okay? Just some very simple stuff. So let's take a look at what we've got here. So let's take a look at, for example, let's do a lion. What are the prominent features of a lion? So one of the things that we always think of is the mane, okay? And I used to do this thing, and I'm actually going to touch on it here. I used to do this thing with the kids to have them guess a particular animal. So in this case, we're going to put some features like this, and then we're going to put some eyes in. And then with a nose, and then mouth. And I would put a little bit of detail here. And then, if you're looking from the front, we could very simply be looking at something like that, okay? Here's what I talk about with the kids. I used to draw this kind of thing, and I would say, what animal is this? I'd say, what animal is this? And a lot of kids would actually figure it out from that. So, what animal is it? If you guessed, an elephant, then you are correct. You can do something like this. So what am I trying to get across here? The point that we're thinking of is what is going to make our characters or our animals immediately recognizable. Here's a couple more. If you've seen my drawings, I always do the chickens. They refer to them as the bowling pin chickens or the potato chickens. But we can also do a rabbit using that bowling pin shape. We can also do a penguin. Using that very similar shape. You could also do more of just a kind of oval or egg shape. Some big eyes. And we might have an owl. So these guys are pretty cool looking. And so what would he say? He's going, who? And he's saying, what? And he's just saying, hey. So we got some talking going on here. Cute. Very basic, very, very basic shapes. Now, when I do my fish, and you guys have seen me do my fish, I have very basic shapes for them too. But remember, even though I keep them basic, they can look totally different. And they can have their own personality. So let's do this. Let's draw a couple fish and we'll talk about the differences. All right, so here's the basics. Not much of an expression yet. Put a little bit of texture there. I'm going to have him kind of bored. He could be mad, he could be bored. And now here's another fish. And this fish is really small, but he has an attitude. And you can see it there, but I made him he looks a little angry. So what would he be angry about? All right, so now I've talked about my cartoons. I always talk about, let's do the words. If we're going to do the words, we'll do the words first. Now I'm just making this up as I go along. So I like the attitude on the little fish. And he's going to say something like this. If you, and I'm going to ink this in so you'll be able to see it. If you don't move, I will make you move. And we'll just say we'll just make you. Okay. Now I can put my word balloon in. Okay. Ink it in. If you, remember to be careful when you're using a fat marker like this one, because it'll bleed on this paper. You don't move, so you make sure you keep your letters away from each other. And if you notice, I am now kind of spacing them a little more than I did even when I put the pencil in. So he's saying, if you don't move, I will make you. Notice how you can still see some of the pencil under there. Do the word balloon. Okay. Now, if you don't move, I will make you. This will all be erased. The pencil will be erased. Why does he not care? Well, let's draw this in a pencil. What that fish doesn't see I'm going to run right off the page. Is this. Now, this brings about a good point. A couple of good points. I want you to notice what I did here. Again, as I'm drawing these, I didn't have a plan in mind. I just kind of drew this. Now, this makes this situation a little funnier even. He can see this guy, so he knows what's going to happen. First of all, he's not concerned about that guy in the least because he's so little. Second of all, he knows he's going to be fish bait in a minute, so it doesn't matter. But look what I've done here. I want to reevaluate this cartoon. Is this really how I would like this to appear? I don't think so. I think that I could make this better. So let's take a look at that. We'll actually keep this one out so that we can see it. Put it here. And let's rethink this cartoon. let's take a look at how it might be better. First, I'll start with this guy. I like him. He's fine. Change the scale a little bit, maybe, so I can get everything on the page that I want to get on the page. Now I'm drawing it in pencil. You may not be able to see this, but don't worry. I'm going to ink it in a minute. Still got that bored look on his face. Here's the little guy. I want to make sure I get that anger look on his face. So I'm actually going to, and you'll see this in a minute, have his eye out, kind of on top of his head, and you'll see what I mean. Now I can really get this whole guy in here. That's better. Actually, kind of put a smile on his face. So he's looking forward to this. Okay, there. Now, again, you can't see this. I'm going to ink it in. Kind of see the pencil a little bit. All right. Let's put the finishing touches on it. And this guy's got a little fin here. There we go. All right. So there we go. Ink this bad boy in. The details so you can see them. And again, I'm using this fat marker, fat-ish marker. It's actually referred to as a fine point, but I don't think it's very fine. I would be using a thinner marker actually if I were creating this cartoon from scratch and wanted to publish it, for example. But for this, it works really good because you can see it really nicely. Get that attitude on this guy's face. All right, so now, and I want you to notice how it bleeds too, but see how I put his eyeball up a little bit, and then I put the eyebrow to make him look mad over it. Okay. Now we do this guy. Got a big smile on his face. There we go. And if you notice, I'm not perfectly going on my lines. I can change stuff as I ink it in, just to get the idea in. I can change stuff and add stuff as I go along too. I might want to change a few things. Extend his bottom fin a little bit. And put some more details in here. I could even have a few bubbles here and there. I don't want too many because I'm going to have word balloon here. All right, so now I'm going to put the word balloon, and I'll put it up here. If you don't move so now one of the things I'm using here in cartoons is a couple of things. I'm doing this all in caps because my printing is terrible. You can use upper and lowercase, whatever works for you, as long as it's nice and clear and easy to read. Now, I'm using the 3 dots for the pause. You could also use a dash here. That works in cartoon lingo. And the other thing I like about this cartoon, as I'm looking at it, is the board look. So he could look freaked out by this big fish coming. This gives us the impression that it's either a friend of his or it is no threat to him whatsoever, but it is a threat to him. And like I say, the funny thing about this cartoon is he's no threat to begin with, but now he's definitely not a threat. Okay, so that looks better, I think, than that, because now we see a little more of the cartoon, plus I added some details in that make it look a lot more fun. What's missing? Well, there's one thing that's missing, and that would be my signature. So we put that on there. All right. And then the other thing too, if I really wanted to go crazy about this, the other thing that I would notice is I have everything kind of high on the page. I may want to center it a little bit more. That doesn't bother me too much. I like the design. I think it looks fine. Some kids would go crazy and put a lot of stuff down here, like coming up from the sea bottom or whatever. You can add those details, but you don't want to take away from the main part. That's the key. Okay. So let's have a little fun with this now that we have it. Why don't we talk about how we might make that look a little bit even cooler. So I'm going to erase some of the guidelines. I usually have my kneaded eraser. I have no idea where it is right now. So I'm going to do this. Just like this. I penciled that in, get rid of this, some of these lines here. I'm just getting rid of the obvious ones. Clean it up a little bit. There. That's nice. Get rid of this guy here. The other thing to remember too, do not draw very hard. Here's how I sketched the fish in when I did them before. Okay, so there's my pencil line. I did it nice and light. If I did it like this, all dark like that, and then try to erase it, I'll do a comparison here. That's where my light line was. This is where my dark lines were. It's never going to erase. Not a problem if you're careful going over it with the marker, but if you have stuff left out like I have here, then you're not going to be able to erase that if it's too dark. And then it's going to look really sloppy. But now, because I did it light, here's the lines. So I totally made the lines go away from under his chin. Okay, so remember that. Draw lightly if you're sketching it in a pencil. All right, so now that we have that done, we're going to take our ultra fine and we're going to do a little shading. Let's test this first. That one looks good. I have a lot of bad ones. Okay, so now I'm going to add some shading to this. This is going to be referred to as hatching. So, for example, this is hatching. And the lines are going like that. I would do darker shadow, and I'm doing ink. This would be cross hatching. See the difference? Okay. I'm going to do mostly hatching. I'll show you what that looks like. So we start to put in a little bit of stuff like this. Add some shadows. And then I could shade this whole cartoon in. And we could do more with the detail as we go along. If I wanted to. I could continue to add some detail. But that's basically what we could do. So we have a cool looking cartoon here. All right. So have fun with your cartoons, have fun with your characters, and make sure that you don't try to do, don't try to be somebody else. Use other people's artwork to learn from, but let your style come through, okay? So really enjoy it, have fun with them, and express yourself, I'll talk to you next time.